10 of the most clever deception strategies used in war. In war, technique is everything. A solitary professional move can be the contrast among triumph and rout. This was unquestionably the situation with the diversion, a splendid strategic move that permitted the Greeks to assume command over Troy. Yet, while the narrative of the diversion might be a thing of fiction, the utilization of odd, however shrewd ploys in war is not. Here is a rundown of probably the most sharp, tricky strategies that have been utilized in battle over the entire course of time. Please like this video to get it to reach more people. Thank you. Number 10. Fake Paris in World War I. Paris is a city rich with history that stretches back hundreds of years. However, during the Second Great War, German aircraft planes flying around evening time were an unavoidable danger to the famous milestones of the French capital. The French thought of a really brilliant arrangement to construct a phony Paris copy out of wood and material, complete with lights, so it would trick the German pilots at night. The bait city would be found right external the genuine Paris, and it would be intended to confound and draw the German pilots from their actual objective. Luckily, the conflict finished not long after development started, so the arrangement was rarely completely understood. The tale of the phony Paris is a sign of the lengths that individuals will go to in the midst of war. It is likewise a demonstration of the force of human resourcefulness and imagination, even notwithstanding difficulty. Number 9. German city does not go dark to avoid bombing. Like France, German urban communities were additionally threatened by evening air attacks. In the Second Great War, one German city called Constance, which sits close to the boundary of Switzerland, had the option to escape barrage by declining to kill the lights into the evening. To safeguard itself from evening airstrikes, German urban areas were banned from utilizing any lights. Street lights and structures went dull, and residents were not permitted to utilize candles and needed to cover their windows with draperies or dark paint. On the other hand, their Swiss neighbors who were nonpartisan in WW2 and hence not designated by the partners stayed enlightened around evening time. By keeping their lights on, Constance had the option to trick the unified powers into thinking they were essential for Switzerland and figured out how to endure the conflict generally sound. Number 8. Ghost Army. On the off chance that you think trickery is a workmanship, the US armed force took it higher than ever during the Second Great War. They ventured to such an extreme as to accumulate a group of craftsmen and sound specialists to make an intricate apparition military unit of inflatable tanks and fake audio cues and radio transmissions to trick the Nazis. The 23rd Base Camp Unique Soldiers, otherwise called the Phantom Armed Force, was comprised of around 100 warriors who were entrusted with making similar sham tanks, trucks, and gunnery. They additionally played recorded hints of fight to cause it to appear as though there were a bigger number of troops than there really were. The feign made an interruption that attached up faux assets and distracted them with a tactical presence that wasn't actually there, while the genuine armed force moved somewhere else. Number 7. Foiled camisade during the War of 1812. During the conflict of 1812, one town on the shore of Maryland figured out how to trick the English during an evening time attack. St. Michael's was a shipbuilding town designated by English powers drawing closer by means of the Miles Waterway. At the point when an assault by the English became up and coming, the residents chose to take action. They put lights in the treetops around the town, causing it to seem like the town was at a higher height than it really was. At the point when the English paddled onto shore in the evening, they were met with gun shoot by the Americans. This drove them back to their boats, from which they terminated upon the town. Since they focused on the lights in the trees they believed were windows and structures, they eventually shot over the town and neglected to hit anything. Number 6. Armed force constructs a phony base to trick Saddam Hussein. The Bay conflict was battled in the mid-1990s as an alliance of powers from in excess of 30 nations tried to free Kuwait from Iraqi occupation. Before the main bombs fell on Baghdad in 1991, the US military was taking part in a clash of brains with Saddam Hussein. The Iraqi despot had attacked Kuwait and was dove in for a long occupation. To drive him out, the US drove alliance expected to mount an unexpected assault. Yet, how is it that they could keep Saddam speculating about their plans? The answer was forward-working Base Weasel, a mysterious army installation set up to bamboozle the Iraqi chief. By conveying misleading radio transmissions, including recorded Egyptian radio traffic about the Americans and establishing false knowledge, the alliance had the option to persuade Saddam that the fundamental assault would come from the south when actually it would be coming from the west. It was a conspiring, and it had exactly the intended effect. Because of the fearless people at forward-working Base Weasel, Saddam was surprised when the genuine assault came, and his powers were immediately directed. Number 5. Vietnam POW plays stupid to deceive captors. Douglas Brent Hegdahl Roman III was just 20 years of age when he was abducted by the North Vietnamese during the Vietnam War. A Naval Force sailor, Hegdahl had been on a boat in the Bay of Tonkin when he fell over the edge and was gotten by a North Vietnamese fishing boat. Hegdahl was promptly taken prisoner and spent the following 2 years in captivity. During that time, he fostered a profound comprehension of the Vietnamese language and culture. Be that as it may, he had the option to trick his detainers into thinking he was moronic and innocuous. He misrepresented his nation highlight and communicated an interest with socialism. Subsequently, he was dealt with somewhat well and was named the unimaginably idiotic one. He was permitted to wander the POW camp uninhibitedly and would covertly undermine the Vietnamese by doing things like placing soil in fuel tanks to cripple them. He was in the long run delivered as a component of a detainee trade. Subsequent to getting back to the US, Hegdahl was tapped for his insight about the Vietnamese as a component of discussions for finishing the conflict. Number 4. Hannibal of Barca tricks Romans. A snare is just on par with what its trap, and with regards to baiting in his foes, Hannibal of Barca is an expert fisher. In 216 BC, the Carthaginian officer found himself and his military cornered in a valley in Campania. Sadly, his military was arranged in a valley with Romans protecting the main way out a mountain pass. Seeing no alternate method for getting away, Hannibal took a crowd of dairy cattle and charged them toward the pass with blazing lights on their horns. The watchmen, thinking the dairy cattle were Hannibal's warriors, hurried to defy them, and his military securely gotten away covert of night. A story has stood out forever as perhaps of the most cunning military move, and it's a demonstration of Hannibal's creativity as a pioneer. Number 3. Operation Mincemeat. In 1943, English Knowledge concocted a shocking arrangement to hoodwink the Nazis that sounds straight out of a government operative flick. The arrangement, codenamed Activity Mincemeat, involved establishing misleading records on the body of a dead man and delivering the body into the ocean off the shore of Spain. The cadaver was that of a vagrant, yet was given a phony character to make look like a dead English officer. The trust was that the Germans would learn of the body and accept the items and the fake records joined to it. The arrangement was effective, and the Germans were persuaded to think that the partners planned to attack Greece and Sardinia instead of Sicily. Subsequently, they redirected troops to these areas, which guaranteed the outcome of the partnered intrusion of Sicily. Activity Mincemeat is presently viewed as quite possibly of the best duplicity in military history. Number 2. Opium-laced cigarettes. In the Second Great War, the English and the Ottomans were entangled in a sluggish, somewhat long fight down and dirty. In the long run, the English discovered that the Ottomans had run out of cigarettes, so all in all they sent packs to the adversary. Be that as it may, the activity was a long way from selfless, as they likewise connected publicity trying to unsettle and insult their adversaries. The Ottomans energetically took the smokes, yet rebelliously disposed of the promulgation, showing no expectation to give up. The English arranged to strike the adversary, be that as it may, prior to doing as such, sent over additional cigarettes, this time bound with opium. When the English sent off their assault, it was a simple triumph as their foe was excessively unstable to set up a very remarkable battle. Please like this video to get it to reach more people. Thank you. Number 1. Cats on the battlefield. Back in 525 BC, a conflict was pursued between the Persians and Egyptians. In the clash of Pelusium, the fight-tried Persian pioneer Cambyses Roman II had the option to defeat Egypt's young, unpracticed pharaoh Psamtik Roman III. In Egyptian culture, felines and different creatures were held as consecrated. Cambyses Roman II knew this, and as per old records, he had his military make an appearance to fight with pictures of felines painted on their shields. Additionally, Persian powers delivered countless felines, canines, and sheep onto the cutting edges. The Egyptians were unfortunate of really hurting these creatures and were so frightened at seeing Persian warriors tossing felines at them that they escaped in alarm. Thus, numerous Egyptians were killed simultaneously, and the Persians had the option to assume command over Egypt no sweat.